This is part 2 of our lesson on the command line, and in this part we're going to learn how to compile and run Java programs from the command line. In the previous lesson, we used the command line to navigate the file structure, and we'll be using some of those skills in this part as well. And so I'll begin by just pulling up my terminal so that I have access to my command line over here. And I'm also going to pull up the Finder app, and I'm going to go into my home directory. And I'm actually going to start BlueJ so that I can just remind you how we write and compile and run Java programs over here, and then we'll do that same thing at the command line. So the project that I was working on recently in BlueJ was the Q2 summative task. We wrote this bus class that could pick up and drop off people and kept track of how much money was in the cash box depending on what the fare was for any particular bus object. And it kept track of how many riders there were on the bus. And so here's my code for the bus class. And then I can also open up my tester class where I create a bus and I pick some people up and I pick some more people up and then I drop some people off and I drop some more people off, and then all in between all of these method calls I produce some output to just make sure that the bus class is working the way it's supposed to. So normally what we do after we write a little bit of code here in BlueJ is we go over here to this screen and we compile it, and then I can run the tester main method, and it produces this output, which just shows that, okay, we're picking up some riders and we're picking up some more riders, and it's just testing the bus class that we made. So I want to be able to compile and run this same program from the command line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to my tester class, and I'm going to add one line of code running from the command line, exclamation point. So I've just modified this code, and what that means in BlueJ is now the tester class appears with these hashes on it because it hasn't been compiled yet. But I'd like to compile and run this from the command line now. Just before I go to the command line, though, I want to remind you where I keep my code. It's in this AP Computer Science folder, and inside that folder there's this project called Q2 summative task, which is really just another directory in here. And if I go in there, I see all of these files, bus.java and tester.java. Those are literally these two files that contain my human readable code that I wrote. And when I compile my code, the compiler produces tester.class and bus.class, which is the machine readable code that represents the instructions of my computer program. So now let me go to my command line. Here I am in my home directory, and I'd like to go to my AP Computer Science directory. I use tab complete to fill that out. And then inside of this, I'm going to go to Q2 summative task, and here I am in my Q2 summative task project directory. And when I list the contents of that directory, I see all these same files that I saw over here in the Finder. There they are. So the first thing I want to do is compile this thing, and the command for compiling Java programs is called javac. That's Java with a C for compiler. And I would like to compile tester.java. So if I say javac tester.java, takes about 2 seconds, and then my command line comes back indicating that there's no error message or any kind of output, so I just am left to assume that the tester.java file was compiled properly. And I can run it. Let me make this window a little bigger. I can run it by just using the Java command. I'm going to say Java tester. And when I execute that, there's the new line that I just added to my code. It says running from the command line, and then it has all this other output that the main method of the tester class produces. So that's how you run a Java program and how you compile a Java program from the command line. Now, usually when we are writing code, we constantly go back to our editor, and our text editor, that is, and we make changes, like I'll delete this line that I just added. And then I want to go back here and I want to compile that again and run it again. So rather than typing the entire command, there's another little command line trick that's very helpful in this situation when we have to do the same commands over and over again. And you just push the up arrow, and you notice the up arrow and the down arrow will scroll through all of the commands that you have run in order. So I use the up arrow twice to get back the command to the compiler, and I just run that again. And then I can use the up arrow again to find the line of the command that ran my code, and there it is. Without that line that I took that line of code out that produced that output, and now my output here doesn't have that. So this is how you compile and run Java programs from the command line.